I was voting to get Rossi.
Alexander Rossi.
I said you guys got that.
Because I can never get enough time in the
I'll tell you
work.
what.
Their espresso machine.
Yeah, we're gonna find yours.
Obviously, you have some experience at this track. Coming back as the reigning series runner-up. Tell us what we can look forward to at COTA and what you're looking forward to for this season.
I just think that it's nice that we're finally racing here. I mean, it's one of the best permanent road courses in the U.S. and North America. Probably one of my top 6-7 favorites in the world. So it's great to finally bring IndyCar here and to be able to be a part of it. I've been coming here since they broke ground back in 2000.
Spring of 2012.
2012, yeah. So it's amazing to now, 7 years later, get the opportunity to race here, and and I'm thrilled. I mean, this town has really embraced racing, and it's always nice to go to a new venue where that's the case. So I'm really excited for the show that IndyCar is going to bring. It's going to be very different than anything they've seen before and been able to be a part of. And it's going to be a pretty awesome weekend. We've got concert, the whole 9 yards. So really March can't get here soon enough.
So why is it one of your favorite tracks in the world?
Just because I think in the initial design, they tried to incorporate like really iconic corners and sequences of corners from a lot of different racetracks in Europe, and kind of mesh them together as one, and then have its own kind of unique personality with turn one and the elevation that exists from that. So it's a track where, by IndyCar standards, it's really long, which is something that I've missed. You know, a 1.9 mile track is pretty common for us, and that's pretty unique to our series. So it would be great to go onto a quite a bigger road course and you know, really push the limits of these cars around.
And why is it that I know a lot of people talk about modifying the length for Indy cars, but why would even anybody need to do that?
Well, I think the only conversation that's been brought up about modifying the length is so that there's no comparisons to other series, but at the end of the day, you know, the show that we're able to put on is going to be far and above anything else that's raced here before, and I think everyone's pretty confident in that. And you know, at the end of the day, it's about the entertainment value that exists on Sunday afternoon. So, you know, IndyCar and Firestone, both manufacturers will obviously be looking at this test and how the performance is and how cars run together and what everything from the ultimate lap time to degradation is like, and then come back with a package that they feel is going to race the best here next month.
One of the drivers before was comparing turn one to Eau Rouge, except you have to turn around and come back down off of our turn one here. Is there any other relationship you can think of to turn one?
No, that's probably the best analogy. Who said that?
I can't remember. It was one of the F1 guys, but I don't.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, yeah, Marcus would know, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, turn one's very cool. It's a mental trip, like how late you can brake there. Because obviously you've got quite a bit of resistance from going uphill, and then it's quite a wide entry. So there's a lot of different ways of going about it. The start of the race there is going to be wild, especially with rolling starts versus standing starts in the past. So yeah, I'm excited about it. Turn one's certainly something pretty unique.
It's gonna be nosy for IndyCar guys to have runoff.
I know, right? We were testing here, and obviously, and it was interesting because like a lot of the tracks that we go to, you kind of have to step up to kind of the ultimate performance, if you will. Whereas like lap 2, I was just kind of firing it in like the first sector and those S's, and if it went wrong, it didn't really matter. You just kind of went straight and aborted the lap. So I was telling Ryan that because he was stressed. He was like, "Oh, there's so many corners on the sim. Like, how do you?" It's like, dude, but there's like a mile of runoff, so nothing bad's gonna happen. Just figure it out and find your way. So, yeah, I think that I'll have definitely like an advantage for the first like hour, and then these guys will figure it out. That advantage will be gone, but I'll enjoy it while I have it.
It's probably a really simple answer to this, but because the track's so down low, is it really hard to get your sectors together without screwing a tyre? Like if you screw up in sector 3 in the middle of the qualifying lap, have you got enough tyre to give you another qualifying lap?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know how the alternate's gonna work, because we only tested on the primary.
Yeah.
So yes, but you're not gonna qualify on the primary, right? So yeah, potentially. I mean, the red tire is pretty known for it kind of being one lap, maybe
Yeah.
on a street course, 2 laps, because they're so short. But yeah, here I would definitely imagine it's gonna be, you get one shot at it, to be your best lap. So at the end of the day, that's not too much different than what we're used to, but
Yeah.
it's just extended. So instead of being perfect for a minute and 5 seconds, you gotta be perfect for, 150% of that time.
They just resurfaced, I think, 3 patches on this.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's a question mark even to Alexander, who's going to be there. There's just been club sport going on since that patch. So
What do you expect turn 1 to be whenever we end up with 25 cars out there? I mean, you being there for the F1 race, although it was crazy rain that one time, obviously that start's always been a little finicky in F1, going uphill off camber left-hander. So I mean, what do you anticipate it being any differently with IndyCar?
No, I mean, we've got some pretty intense turn 1s. So, I mean, I think the guys are pretty well versed and qualified. So, I mean, it's not, yeah, it's challenging, but I wouldn't say it's any more challenging than some of the turn 1s we go to anyway. So, yeah, I'm sure there's a possibility of there being an issue, but at the same time, I think there's just a high possibility of this all getting through fine.
Just in the 3 years that you've been with the series, it's come a long way since your rookie year, right? And does that kind of, how do you put all that in perspective about how, I mean, the potential for growth is pretty good right now.
You're absolutely right. It's been amazing to kind of witness firsthand, because obviously there was all the lead up in 16 for the 100th running of the 500, and then it seems like that momentum is still continuing on. And I mean, obviously there's a lot of other factors that have played into that, but really ever since June of 2016, it's just been on a pretty exponential rise, and that's been very cool to be a part of and witness. And a huge amount of the credit, all the credit, is really due to Jay and his team and Mark, and I mean what they've done. And I've said to a lot of people, like, they're the first series I've ever been a part of where they share with the drivers what the 3, 5, 10-year plan is, and then they actually execute that. And I think that's really impressive, and it's the correct way to run a series, a business, and all of the things that go along with that. So it's been a pleasure to be a part of it, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
And if you were, if the 100th was the springboard and the rejuvenation of IndyCar, in a sense, you're kind of the poster boy of that rejuvenation. So how does it feel that it's kind of coincided with you becoming an IndyCar driver?
I mean, it was a good one to choose to win, for sure. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's kind of regardless of where you finish in the season in the 500, it's your duty as an IndyCar driver and someone that's passionate about the series to go out and kind of do everything you can to promote it and raise the excitement levels, and introduce it hopefully to new fan bases. So, I feel like that's something that we all take a lot of pride in, all the drivers in the series, and something that I have grown to appreciate being allowed to do, given the freedom to really promote the series in ways that you see fit.
Is your appreciation of your 500 win, because what happened in your 4th or 5th start, has it grown over time, or was there a point maybe later in that season, or even 17 or 18, where the immensity of what you accomplished hit you?
Oh yeah, but in different stages. I mean, I'd be here for way too long to walk you through all those stages. But yeah, for sure, like, a week after versus 6 weeks after versus 6 months versus a year, et cetera, et cetera. But the one thing I can say is every year that goes by without winning, and if the desire to win even goes up even more, if that's possible. So it's a unique race from that standpoint. You know, you win another race in Barber, for example, it's like, cool, you tick the box. If you win again, cool, that's great. But the desire isn't necessarily there. Whereas the 500, I feel like if you get a taste of it, like you want it even more than if you haven't won, just because you don't want anyone else to get all the cool things that come along with it.
You feel that way about Long Beach, especially now that Acura is the sponsor of it?
Yeah, I mean, yes, because it's a home race, right? It's
Yeah.
a home state race. Do I feel the same way about Mid-Ohio? No. I guess I'm gonna go there with the intention of winning again, but there's not that emotional connection to it like there is at Long Beach, or if I were to hopefully, win at Laguna or something like that in California, and obviously Indianapolis. Those 3 races will always have a more special place in my mind than others.
Do you think being here for the first time, that adds to you and the other drivers? That you want to be the first one here?
No,
Marquez,
I mean, it's,
Hamilton.
it doesn't matter where you are, you're trying to win every single race you're at. It doesn't matter if you're racing in a parking lot in go-karts, like all of us show up and we're trying to beat each other and trying to win. So that doesn't change regardless of the venue.
Alex, you made a number of really daring passes last season, the kind that, you see the in-car and you sort of hold your breath when you see it. Was that really high risk for you? Were you just very comfortable doing that?
It's relative. I mean, if you look at it from the outside, yeah, it's high risk, but in the car it was fine. And it was something that I never felt kind of out of my comfort zone, if that makes sense. And there were scenarios where we were kind of forced into that situation. If I was, starting 6th at Indy this year, that wouldn't be my approach. But I mean, we're starting last basically, so can't really go backwards from there. We might as well try something.
Set not to cross the starting line.
Yeah.
What did you learn from last year's championship battle with Scott that maybe you could apply differently this time around?
I think the big thing was, and I have to word this carefully because we finished every race, so we didn't have catastrophic days, and we had the same amount of wins as him, and I think the same amount of podiums, but he just. When I would finish 11th, he'd finish 4th. And it's just that's what he does. And he's won 5 championships for a reason. He's one of the best that's ever done it. So I think what I learned was, up until last year in my career, I'd never been in a position to where if you didn't have a car to win that day. So in the past, if I was in an opportunity to win, I had to win. Because I might not get that opportunity for 4 to 14 months. But now I feel like with the place that Andretti's at, the place I'm at, the place Honda's at, with the cars being virtually the same this year to last year, if you're having a day where you're 4th or 5th, it's okay. Or 3rd, it's okay because theoretically the next weekend you should be just as strong. And so it's a lot easier to kind of analyze risk in those situations because you're always going to have a quick car. When you're in the mindset of, I might not have a quick car for another year, and I have to prove that I'm capable of doing this, it's a very different approach.
So what's it gonna be like having Connor as a teammate?
Funny. No, awesome. I'm so proud of him, and I know very closely how hard he's worked and the amount of stress that he's gone through to get this deal done. So he deserves it. I'm glad that he gets to show up to Indianapolis in a car that would probably be one of the quickest he's ever driven, and he'll get to kind of appreciate an Andretti Autosport car around Indianapolis, like some of the less lucky ones have gotten to. So he'll do a good job for us, and looking forward to getting to work with him and seeing what he can contribute to the overall effort.
And the way you guys kind of hang out together off the track, I mean, you're kind of like the Dean Martin and he's the Jerry Lewis. So how did all that kind of happen like that?
Well,
Does he even know who?
Connor he was my first friend coming to Indianapolis because I'd known him from Europe. I'd known him from Skip Barber. And when I moved to Indy, I didn't know anyone except him. And but honestly, he's been one of my closest friends since 2006. So I mean, I've known him for a really long time. We've gone through the whole European experience together. We've lived with each other off and on for a while. We go on weird TV shows together, and he's just one of my really good friends. So, like I said, I'm really proud of him and happy for him.
With that, we wrap it up with Alex.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.